on live, but I was not. What I'm talking about is now there was an item in my last written Substack about a rather bizarre event in the western Latvian town of Sabile. Sabile is known for having one of the few functional vineyards in Latvia. And because of that, they have been holding for the past several years a so called uh, wine festival, which is accompanied by also a kind of procession in the street, a march, in which people are kind of, from time to time put on satirical performances. And the satirical performance that they put on over the recent weekend, and that was the video was in my most recent Substack or my previous Substack, involved people in blackface and people pretending to be South Asian Bolt and Volt couriers, the people who work in Riga distributing food. I don't think that happens in Sabile, maybe in some of the other bigger Latvian towns. But and that was perceived, and that upset a lot of people as being extremely racist. Um, and a lot of people, including a friend of mine, George Steele, who is a Latvian American. He is a naturalized Latvian citizen, and he is an Afro American by birth and previous nationality, call it what you will. And also, a lot of local Latvians were kind of shocked by this whole thing. I sort of saw it, and I hope that it was a manifestation of sort of clueless ignorance, because the people were performing it in a kind of sincere way. There's even a woman in blackface dressed in a grass skirt and some weird uh, image of how people think Africans look. When Africans look all different sorts of things. There may be a very few Africans left somewhere that actually dress like that, but most of them have, clothing of 54 different countries and various tribes and language groups. But aside from that, I mean, uh, what struck me was that yeah, that I think these people were doing it, in a sense of good humor without really understanding what the context of what they were doing and how that would be received and all of that. I don't think they're like really seriously racist people. I don't think they're in Sabila, and I don't think there are people in Sabila who've ever met a person of color for any length of time, other than if somebody drove through a town and asked for directions, they may have seen somebody like that. So that is, it's not, it can't really be forgiven, but at least you can sort of put it in that slot and say, okay, the this was a stunt by the ignorant peasants, or I shouldn't call them that. I'll get a lot of flack. I've already gotten a lot of flack for putting that video of the whole Sabila performance. There's a nice Latvian name for that sort of thing, balagans, which sort of means cheap ass carnival. Um, and then explaining in English, what had happened. How dare you? You're making Latvia look bad in the eyes of the world. When if you go out on TikTok and you post this balagans, uh, then don't be surprised that people all over the world looking at TikTok are gonna, or even people searching for Latvia in TikTok and looking up, oh, here, this nice picture of the Freedom Monument, and then, oh my God, why are there people in blackface, pretending to be African dancers? What the hell is going on? So that's unavoidable. I didn't cause the shock and dismay about this whole event because of what I wrote and posted, and I think it should have been written and posted because I mean, come on, Um, but I think beyond I mean, if we sort of accept that this was, the country bumpkins doing something in a sincere but totally misguided way, an uneducated way. If we go beyond that, there is a serious racism problem here in Latvia, and it's illustrated not so much that Latvians have objections to how can I put it, classic black people, Afro Americans or Africans, but that there is now a social media campaign being run by some people against South Asians, brown-skinned South Asians, who are most of whom are students here, most of whom are studying some kind of high-tech stuff here because that's taught in English or business, whatever, and a lot of them make a living by uh, delivering food often on bicycles and electric scooters. Some of them occasionally get cars to use, and they do this in all sorts of weather. And I know that my wife and I often buy lunch or an evening meal from these guys, and they're always polite. They're always, uh, I absolutely don't see how anybody could be scared of these guys, or see them as a threat to the ethnic identity of Latvia, because most of them are going to be gone once they finish their studies. I don't think too many of them are all that worked up on staying here, especially if they see that they're not exactly welcome by the way people react to them. One of the people also who got outraged by this and put something up on Facebook is I hope I'm not mispronouncing or misremembering his name. It's a guy called Gokul, who is also a kind of a video podcaster who actually does a lot of stuff about the Latvian language, which he's been here for several years and he's learned it at a reasonable level, and then he sort of explains how certain strange expressions in Latvian language and whatever, and he's very favorable about Latvia. Now he's totally outraged by this racist or ignorantly racist balagans that took place in Sabile, and it is these people who are being targeted and fear mongered about, and demonized and dehumanized. And that is a very unhealthy trend here, and it has to be combated at every and all levels. Sometimes harshly, sometimes saying to these people, "You are a fucking racist. Somebody should smack you upside the head," or otherwise, sort of giving people a history lesson or a lesson in context, and a lesson in the fact that there was a time in the U.S., for example, on the American East Coast in the Boston area in the early 20th century, Latvians were regarded as dangerous radicals and as potentially criminal anarchists. Latvians were rounded up during the Palmer raids in my hometown, Boston. I mean, it was long before my parents even got there, and so we shouldn't ignore the fact that we can also be demonized for our ethnic origins. There have been Latvian criminals in the UK. One guy who killed a young British girl. I don't remember that there was an outcry saying let's run all the Latvians out of out of Britain. People didn't react that way. People were upset by the crime. But when the perspective is different, and when someone thinks that a black person or a person of color may have done something, improper or illegal, then everybody says, all of them are like that. Let's run the whole lot out of town. Let's deport everybody and whatever. So that's what worries me most. It's not the circus in some little country town, nice little country town in Latvia, by the way. Also interesting in that somebody has set up a huge display of these ragdoll like creatures. There are hundreds of them, like little men and women and whatever. You have to drive by it. You have to see it if you're ever in Latvia. Driving from Riga to Liepāja or Ventspils, you have to drive through Sabile, that little town. Anyway, that is what that is something that I think is worth making a live video about, and I hope this is recording also, so that I'm not going to disappear when I turn this thing off. And if you like my Substack, my written Substack sometimes includes video elements as well, then please subscribe. And even if you can afford €5 a month for the pleasure or the outrage of reading what I have to say, you can also subscribe as a paid subscriber. Well, anyway, I've been ranting on here, and I see I have all of 3 listeners or viewers, including my old friend Lenny. Hi, Lenny. And hope you're doing well. I may be in Boston around the midterms because I don't think anybody who is not physically present may not be able to vote in the US the way things are going. Anyway, I'm going to sign off now, and we will continue this theme. I think it's not going to end just with the Balagan subsubula, as I like to call it. So long, everyone.